What is going on, guys? So today I will be doing an upper and rear transmission mount swap and also a passenger side axle swap. So I already got the hubcap off of the center cap, and I've already loosened the axle nut. So far I got the car on jack stands with the wheel chocked, transmission jack on standby, wheel chock back there. First thing I'm gonna do is disconnect the ground cable with a 10mm socket. Remove this. To get to the upper transmission mount, you're gonna need to remove the entire battery tray. So let's get that done. Okay, so with the battery tray out the way, sometimes you might have to move the coolant tank. You have to unhook the ECU, which is from the battery tray, and then underneath the battery tray is what you should have. And then of course this right here is the upper transmission mount, which makes it super easy to get to. So one thing you're going to want to do is use your jack, place a block underneath to support the transmission, and then slowly loosen each one of these bolts incrementally until you see that it's not the transmission mount is not supporting the transmission. And once you realize that and the transmission's safe and sturdy with the jack, you're good to actually remove the mount itself. So one thing I like to do is when I take off bolts and nuts, put them back onto where they go, so you don't have like a pocket full of random nuts, random bolts, stuff like that. And of course my my dolly for today is this 3rd gen Camaro, which I'm probably never going to do anything with. So it's holding my parts. So all right, so what you're wanting is being able to loosen all of the bolts by hand, so there's no pressure actually on the mount itself. And once you have that, you know the transmission is secure, and you can go ahead and remove the rest of the bolts. All right, so when you got the parts out, you're gonna wanna make sure they look the same. The bolts all match up. So you got the 3 up front, the off-centered right there and there. Same side on both. A little spot here to screw something in. A loop back there, loop. So they look the same. So with the main difference so this is still a rubber bushing, but it's a billet piece from OTTP. And I can push on this thing and that baby's not going to move, but this one, you can see just with my hand I'm moving that thing. So you can see inside it's gapped all the way around, so it's really only being held by that right there, which that might be broken. No, it's not broken, but I mean, easy flex. So that's one of the reasons you want to replace it. So whatever I do, I can't actually bend this. So this is gonna be a much solid piece. Should be a lot more feel through the pedal, less wheel hop. So overall, a better piece. You're not really gonna see it because it's gonna be underneath the battery tray. But I mean, for $140, it's definitely worth it. So when you're in here, we're gonna also replace the clutch pedal, the clutch line, to a stainless steel one to get rid of the delay valve, so help with the 1-2 shift. All right, so I got the transmission mount in. It fits perfectly. So right now we're gonna move to the lower mount, which is down there. I'll show you that in a second. So this right here is the lower mount. As you see, I got a rock stuck in it, but it's a cheap little rubber mount right there, which hooks right here. So in order to get this off, just remove this bolt, should slide up and slide out. All right, so with all the bolts out, you should be able to slide it down or out, kind of snag a little bit, and there it is. So what we'll do is compare this transmission mount with the OTTP transmission mount. And I can tell you right now, with all those gaps and holes and how I can move the inside just with my hands, it's going to be much stiffer, but still be fairly comfortable because it's a rubber mount. Okay, so here's the comparison. The OTTP is a billet piece with OTTP on the side, so when you install it, you're going to want to be able to read it like so. This one will be a lot lighter, so this one's quite a bit heavier than the OTTP model, but you know, overall it's not going to save you any time on a quarter mile, but it will help with rigidity of your drivetrain. So it's worth the upgrade. I believe this was $80, $60, something like that, from OTTP's website. But This is super simple to replace. I don't even think I need to support the transmission for this one, but I did just in case. So it's basically just remove this bolt, slide it out, slide this one in, and you're good. So OTTP supplies a washer that you want to use to fit in here to fill a gap for the bolt, but other than that, you're good to install. Also, you're going to want to use thread locker on both of the bolts for the transmission mounts, so the uppers as well. And the spacer fits right in there. You can see it to fill this gap, and just torque them down. Okay, so for a clutch delay valve and OTTP transmission line, it hooks in right there, and it replaces this hard line and the rubber line all the way back to the solenoid right here. So you're gonna have to remove the bolt in the bottom and these two bolts to get underneath to where you need to replace it. I'll show you one. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is the clutch delay valve. As I know, it's not focusing. You got to get the clip off right there, and where that is underneath this module. So the clutch and the brakes use the same fluid. So once you get that clip off, you run the stainless steel line back there, hook it up, and put the clip back in, and then you don't need to bleed the clutch. So that yellow capper there that's on where you hooked the thing up to before, that's where you bleed it from. Okay, so now I have it hooked up. So right here, all the way back there's these little clips right here. Just push it in, clip it in, and then to bleed it, so I know you're kind of sideways, you have this area right here. So put a nipple, put a clear hose or some shit on it, rotate this, and it'll open it, have someone press it, close it, have them let off, have them press it, rotate it until you stop getting air bubbles out, and that's how you bleed the clutch. And then you can put the cap back on, and you're done with the clutch delay valve. Also, just make sure you're not gonna rub through anything with this hose. So yeah, that's that. And also, this is what we removed right here. So this part went into the transmission, and this is the delay valve right here. This is what you wanted to remove. So this is actually the hardest part I've done on this entire thing yet. So I'm gonna put the battery back in, the tray back in, hook everything up, and then we're going to swap the axle out. All right, so now we got everything back in exactly how it was. Clutch down there. I sprayed all the air down with some water to get up any of the brake fluid. So everything's good. I will test the clutch in a second, but clutch is easy to bleed. So right now we're going to move on to the axle, and I'm going to show you why it needs replaced. So I've already loosened the axle nut. I can actually lower the jack supporting the transmission. All right, move that out of the way. So I'm going to let's see if I can do this. So it has all this play in it, and then the axle isn't just rotating, it's also bending up, and there's quite a bit of play in here pushing upwards. So what happens, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the stock axle back in. So this is an axle from Advanced Auto Parts. So I'm gonna get a replacement, and I'll probably upgrade from here. But so now we're gonna go ahead and replace this axle, because there shouldn't be this much play in it, and it's not rotating. There, you can see it flexing right there. So we're gonna replace that, and then we're gonna be done. So we got our lower transmission mount there. You probably won't be able to see it. Upper transmission mount up there. Clutch, new clutch delay valve line right there. Also, when the car's starting, make sure it's not leaking anything. So this should be a pretty quick job since I've greased everything up. So it should slide out pretty easy there. Once it's out, I'm gonna have to remove the tire. I'm gonna try to do it without removing the caliper or the rotor. But
I'll be back in a second.
Okay, so in able to remove the axle, you're gonna have to remove the axle nut, which I did. Remove the wheel, the tie rod and linker. You're gonna have to remove that, and also down here we can see the anti-seize. You're gonna need to remove that. You're gonna need to separate the lower control arm from the hub section in right here. Move this, and you should be able to bend this part out. And with the nut off, you should be able to punch that in, and then it should pop out from the carrier bearing right there. And it's super easy day. So another way you can do it is remove the carrier bearing altogether and pull the axle out from the differential. Sometimes you're gonna have to do that, but in this case I shouldn't have to because it's a brand new axle that's greased up everywhere. So but I'm going to try to do it without removing the caliper or the rotor. So also for the brake swap I did, so I don't know if you can see this little ring in there. I had to make that to center the rotor on the hub. So without that, you're going to have imbalance because the rotor is not going to want to sit there, sit center. So if you do this brake swap, definitely do that. All right, be back in a second. Okay, so with the lower control arm disconnected and the tie rod disconnected, you should be able to pull this section out, the hub section out, and this should fall straight out. So now what we got to do is disconnect it from the carrier bearing right in there, which should be able to tap it out and should come right out. So you're gonna want to save this little washer right here as well. Okay, so I got both axle shafts right here, so that's the only way I can hold it. So this one is also going out, but you can see this one moves out a little bit. This one moves out far more, probably way more than it needs to. So I'm gonna put this one back in, take this one back to Advanced Auto Parts because there's definitely something wrong with it, and I'm gonna get a replacement. So this axle is going in the exact same way it came out. So first of all, I'm gonna grease up the end, and I'm gonna set this section right here over this spline right here, and I'm gonna tap it in until it's bottomed out. Once it's bottomed out, I'm gonna bring this part out a little bit so I can fit the end of the axle through that. So don't forget to take the little clip off the end, and then once that's connected, I will hook up the bottom control arm, the tie rod, and I'll throw the axle nut on, and then it should be good. Okay, so now that we're done with everything, the axle's back in, tires on. Tires not torqued yet, but we're gonna see if the car works. So we're gonna try to start it. We're gonna press the clutch several times, see if the clutch actually engages. My suspicion is we're gonna have to bleed the clutch again, but we'll see. So clutch seems to work. Alright, we're gonna check for any leaks. Get the e-brake on. Check the fluid of the brake reservoir. Okay, so I checked for leaks. I tightened the wheel, removed the shock block. Now it's time to see if the clutch works. Hopefully without running over any tools. UPS guys back there. So I get more vibration than I did before. So what I'm checking for now, so you can feel a little bit of vibration through the pedal and your butt now. So no more vibration under acceleration. So throwing the stock axle back in fix a problem, but we'll see if I can show you what the problem with the stock axle was. So we're gonna go in this little cul-de-sac right here. And hopefully these people don't call the cops on me. First gear. See, it's like a tapping sound, so that's why I replaced the axle, but I'd rather it be tapping than wobbling and causing my wheel bearing to go out more. So you can still hear it. Hard to shift one-handed, and I shifted into fourth. All right, but yeah, there's definitely a lot more connection to the engine, to the car, so you're gonna feel it a lot better. But overall, it feels great. You can kind of hear the little like vibration, although it's not super rattly. You can definitely feel the engine more often, so which is good. So now I'm put away tools, and then we are good, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching.